I don't know about you, but I've been trying to follow what's going on in Australia, and I can't get any of the news stories to match the video. The news stories say that it was a bunch of neo-Nazis dressed as construction workers, and the police did no wrong, et cetera, and that may be the story. However, the video I am seeing a video of construction workers, throwing bottles and everything else. But then I'm also seeing other videos where the police are just taking people off the streets and just beating them, Birmingham style. I don't know what the truth is. Avi Yemini is the Australia bureau chief for the Rebel News, a journalist in Australia that has been following this. Avi, welcome to the program. What the heck is happening?
I know it can sound very confusing. I think it's also confusing for Aussies that are here. But I for Rebel News, was in amongst it from the beginning, and I can tell you right now, there's no Nazis there. It was the media really want you to believe that, and the unions want you to believe that. That's the narrative that makes it easy for them to avoid taking any responsibility. But essentially what happened in short is last week there was a mandate. There's a mandate to be introduced for the construction industry. And as you can imagine, there's a lot of union members which feel like it's their union's job to represent and fight for their rights. That's essentially the one thing they pay membership for. So they decided to go outside the union headquarters, the construction union headquarters, and to speak to the union boss. Now, it was about 9 hours outside that office, and they kept pushing off. The boss kept pushing off when he's going to come down and speak to his members until they gave an hour deadline. He'd said he was going to come down to talk to them, and suddenly news hits this crowd, which ended up being, by that point, about 2,000 members strong. Mostly 99% of them are construction workers union Labor voters which are like Democrats. Mm-hmm. So certainly not far-right Nazis. And suddenly the news hits the crowd that the boss is actually on the radio telling the audience, telling the state that it's just crazy far-right extremist anti-vaxxers outside, and he doesn't know what they want from him. So obviously that didn't go down too well with the crowd, and that's where the violence actually started. Now, the videos you're seeing the next day and the following day was an escalation certainly by the police, and you had, once the rest of the members had seen that, so the next day you had probably 10 times that number roaming the street. There was certainly violence on both sides, but having said that, the police escalated to a point where they essentially turned their counter-terrorism capabilities on the civilian population, on these construction workers. In short, in summary, I think the government overstepped it and picked on an industry that until now they haven't done an industry that would fight back and did fight back immediately and is continuing to fight back until for the previous 18 months it's been, 70-year-old grandmas that have been pepper spraying in the face. And now it's certainly a part of the population that won't take it lying down, and we can see how that is working. We're seeing those videos you're seeing is just capturing those moments, and so police are certainly coming in very hard to anyone.
I want to show the video while we continue to have our conversation. There was some video that I saw last night of some people that were just pulled off the streets. They were walking down the street one side, and the police come from across the street and just push this guy. Another one wings him down to the ground, and they just start beating on him.
Oh, my God. Oh, my God.
This is a different one, but here's the police beating on this guy. Play the other clip, please. Can you play the other clip? Hopefully.
So they're stopping anyone that obviously looks like a construction worker.
By myself, going for a walk, trying to get back to work.
So you're here for a lawful reason?
Lawful reasons always. The cops with the guns, just one of them looks at me, just sprints across the road, and they just drop me, all like 5 of them on top of me, just smashing me, for no reason.
So why'd they pull you up?
Oh, just for being here, basically, yeah.
Are you within your 10 Ks?
Yeah, I live in South Melbourne. I just walked here. My watch is still going, 4.2 Ks.
Stop for a second. That's the guy who was beaten down to the ground. You remember talking to him, Avi? The guy with the orange hat, by any chance?
Of course, he's a construction worker, and that's the story we're hearing from all these construction workers, is that they're being targeted because essentially the government, when that escalated outside the headquarters, the government shut down the entire construction industry for what they said was going to be a snap 2-week lockdown for that industry. And so basically anyone walking around looking like a construction worker was fair game for the police. And there's been zero accountability. We've seen throughout this pandemic, the police think they are above the law at the moment with their new emergency powers. So if you look like a suspect, they will beat you and ask questions later.
How are the people in Australia reacting to this? Are they buying into the Nazi thing?
I think for the first 24 hours, yes. The government, the media, the unions certainly had the narrative down pat. People believed it. But to be fair, when people saw the Rebel News story where we actually interviewed, everybody in that crowd, we were walking around just interviewing it, and it became quite clear that they were union members. And the very next day, they changed the way they spoke about the crowd, and suddenly they were talking about, elements that were far right and far right provocateurs. I think that was probably their way to blame me for this, for their issues. But the fact of the matter is, it very much was an organic explosion of outrage that they brought onto themselves, and they have no one but themselves to blame. And I think the government misjudged it. It was they got away with it for 18 months in Melbourne. We've been in lockdown. We are the most lockdown city in the world, most lockdown with the harshest restrictions, and people have complied. But now they've taken on an industry which, these are people that live paycheck to paycheck. Take away that paycheck, you've given them no other choice but to stand up and fight for it.
So what is coming towards Australia? Common sense and a reversal of these things, or chaos? It's a tough question. You know what? The last week certainly indicates chaos is coming, and I'm hoping at the end of it, whether it's chaos or it settles straight away, I'm hoping common sense is what does prevail. Well, I saw the video of the police running into the city park, firing into the backs of people, rubber bullets, but they were still firing rubber bullets into the backs of people as they were running away from the police. I don't think I've ever seen that.
Glenn, I've been in war zones, and some of the stuff I'm seeing here in Melbourne, I just cannot believe my eyes. I was covering a peaceful march of those construction workers, and they were literally walking, probably 1,000 strong, walking, peacefully marching, chanting, and out of nowhere, these armored, vehicles that you see at the front lines of a battlefield suddenly confront them, and counter-terrorism police run out of the vehicle and start firing indiscriminately into the crowd and firing tear gas, throwing tear gas canisters. It's incredible. And to think that, all these tools that they've been given over the last few years in the name of, counter-terrorism is now being used on the people that funded it to protect themselves through their taxes. it's scary, and it makes you think all the things that they're passing now under the guise of public health. What is it going to be used for next? Just like they're misusing and abusing counter-terrorism things. It's an eye-opener, and people need to wake up.
From Rebel News in Australia, Avi Yemini. Avi, thank you so much. Please stay in touch with us because we can't make heads or tails from it here.
Anytime, mate. Thanks
Thank
for
you.
having me.
You bet. Rebel News. You can follow Rebel News, rebelnews.com.au for Australia.